Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Hardwood Nation podcast with your boy CL Anthony and my main man, Bryce Ward. What's going on, Bryce?
Not much, man. Same old. How are you?
I am doing fantastic coming off this amazing week from the Miami Heat, but we'll get into that later.
hmm
There's another team doing great in the Eastern Conference right now. Just a couple of weeks ago, the Boston Celtics were in the play-in tournament, but they are winners of 8 of their last 10 games, and they've won 2 straight games. So we want to give Boston a little bit of love because we did kind of rip them earlier in the season with the two. I forgot what you called them. You called them something with Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown. We kind of ripped into them a little bit. How do you feel about the Boston Celtics, who are currently fifth in the Eastern Conference?
um, it's close to where they should have been the whole time. It's kind of weird though. Boston has this reputation and clout. Uh, it seems like always with their teams, and I always feel like they should be a little bit better than their team actually is, just from those other reasons. And usually they have a great coach as well, and so they usually have a lot of good things going for them. Um, but they started off the season super rocky. It seemed like they were having locker room issues. Marcus Smart famously came out and spoke about some of it, or criticized the team on some of it, and
Yeah.
they started taking care of things behind closed doors. It seems like, but we knew there were issues. And we've talked before about Brown and Tatum playing together or playing separately and stuff in their stat sheets in a way that wasn't necessarily conducive to winning for the whole team. Maybe the two guys couldn't play together; they're too similar. Things like that. And we're not the only ones that have been talking about some of those things this season. Um, so the fact that they're able to pull it together now, more recently, and go on some of the winning streaks, it's kind of like what we thought potential wise they could have done the whole season.
Right.
There's a lot of teams though that are really getting into like their rhythm. We didn't know how Harden was going to fit in with Philly off this, just off rip, and so far that seems pretty fluid. Um, the Heat are amidst a challenging week, but they've been firing on all cylinders for a while. Same for Milwaukee. The East is super competitive right now, and so for Boston to also be in that pack and to be competitively moving up the ranks over the last few weeks. It's just a testament to how good that team is playing right now. Marcus Smart and those two guys, even though Jalen Brown's been hurt a little recently, those guys have been gelling better. Marcus Smart filling in for Brown lately has been really good too. His scoring's been up a little bit. His assist average has been up a little bit, and he's been a consistently dog on the defensive end. But that was kind of like what he did. So him playing better, the two guys maybe gelling and getting into a team rhythm instead of their own rhythm a little bit better towards the mid to end season. It kind of makes sense as well. So I'm not necessarily a Boston fan by any means, but I do like the team they have there. So the fact that they're playing better now kind of makes more sense than how bad they were at some points in the beginning of the season. So I like to see them put it together because I do like some of these players.
Absolutely. And to put it more in perspective at how impactful their winning has been right now, on the Hardwood Nation podcast, we talk about the last 10 games a lot because it gives you a nice sample size of performance. The last 10 games for the Boston Celtics, they're tied with the Miami Heat for the best in the East at 8-2. So your output has been just as good as the number one team in the Eastern Conference in the last 10 games. So that's pretty phenomenal, especially with this last push to go into the playoffs. You're getting hot at the right time. So kudos to Boston because they weathered the storm. Marcus Smart is clearly the heart and soul of that team. He's not the face of the team, but he's clearly the heart and soul of that team, and they go
Hmm.
as he goes. And even their coach, I can't pronounce his name right now. It looks like he's finally now getting comfortable with being a head coach after being an assistant coach and even a player in the NBA for a while. So it looks like he's getting comfortable now with it. So it took a little more time than I thought it would take, but I'm happy that it's finally happening um, for the Boston
Hmm.
Celtics. So a topic that you wanted to talk about this week is Ja Morant and his ascension this year. Coming off a week where we saw him score 52 points in the game, we saw him electrify the crowd with a multitude of dunks. Even in All Star Weekend and All Star Game, he had a couple of good dunks in that game. Is Ja Morant a legitimate MVP candidate at this point?
He is. I think this season it'll go to someone else. But I think almost like a way a team has to earn playoff experience to get to that championship trophy. I feel like the MVP race is kind of in the same boat in a sense, to where you have to like earn some things, and you almost have to flirt around with it before you actually win it. If that makes sense, like um, what there's the people that are in the talks for it this year. You got Jokic as always. You had Embiid. You had Stephen Curry. And you can make some dark horse arguments for some other players. You know, I know you were talking about DeRozan for a little bit, but then it seemed like Embiid pretty much became undeniable there for a couple weeks, and I think he's still right there for me as my top pick this year. But in terms of what I was talking about right before that, Embiid flirted around with it before as well. You know, and then Jokic was able to snag it. Same for him the year before he actually won it. Um, the surprise for me in like recent, or I mean, since I've really been paying attention to basketball again, the one that surprised me the most back in the day was Derrick Rose winning it the year he won it, and I think some of it had to do with the spectacle of what he was bringing to the sport at the time, and like the reputation around the league. Like what he was doing was really impressive. Whether you liked basketball or not, you could see Derrick Rose dunk, and you're like, what is going on here? You know, I think some of that played into it, some hype and things, because like statistically and what the team did, they were very good, but there were some arguments to be made for other players as well. Like I said, I think we got caught up in the Derrick Rose hype, which I was all for because I'm a huge Derrick Rose fan as well. But Ja reminds me of that. And I don't know. I don't think he wins it this year, but I think he's primed as long as he stays healthy and continues to do what he did this year. If he does that again next year, and Memphis continues to be as good as they are this year, I think next year will be his year. But I mean, what he's doing is crazy impressive. He shut anybody up, even us, and we weren't critiquing him or downplaying his ability. But when Memphis was winning when he was down, that's a glaring issue. So when
Yes.
he came back and they kept winning, and then he started to ball even harder, you know, that's not a testament to, or that wasn't us putting him down. That was us saying there's this question here, and that was him answering it. So that's what you like to see from leaders, and especially young up and coming stars like him. But I think next year is his year to capitalize on maybe some of that success and win it next year.
It's funny that you bring up Derrick Rose because the year that he won the MVP, a couple of strange things happened. Because I actually, when I was still writing, I'm since retired now, but when I was still writing, I broke down his MVP season. His stats were exactly the same as Russell Westbrook in OKC. One. Weird, right? So I'm just throwing it out there. He had the exact same numbers as Russell Westbrook. Derrick Rose benefited by the fact that that was LeBron's first year in Miami, and for some reason the media hated LeBron James for leaving Cleveland. It was the weirdest thing. We knew the fans were going to hate him, but the media hated him as well his first year in Miami. I guess they thought he was taking a shortcut or whatnot. So people who typically would have voted for LeBron James for MVP because he did have an MVP season that year were like, "Fuck you, we're going to vote for Derrick Rose." So he had that kind of momentum behind him. Um, Ja Morant's ceiling, as long as he stays healthy, is going to be extremely more impactful than anything that Derrick Rose did in this league before he got hurt. If anybody would have thought that the Memphis Grizzlies would be the second seed in the Western Conference right now, like you were talking about betting on the Heat last night, we should have betted on Memphis being this high in the Western Conference. It is unbelievable at what's going on. Are they a threat to win the championship? I don't know. This is their second straight year in the playoffs. I don't know if they're a threat to get even to the conference finals at this point. But if Ja Morant, as you said, not only has a good year next season, but if he starts that momentum with a great playoff showing this season, he may well be in line for MVP next year. So I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I'm extremely excited to see them in a play. I want to see them in a deep playoff run because I don't remember what he did last year. I just don't. I'm sorry, I'm old. But I want to see him in a deep playoff run with a healthy young team to see how far they can go. Because currently in the West, again, we do last tens, and there's a few teams in the West that are 8-2 right now. Phoenix, Utah, Dallas, Denver. The West is on fire, but Memphis is right there at 7-3 in their last 10 games. Real quick before we change subjects, there's another team at 7-3 right now that's pretty damn surprising. The Minnesota Timberwolves. Holy shit, that came out of nowhere,
Really.
and they're in the play-in. Imagine that. Cat might get back into the playoffs. Imagine that. I need to start paying more attention to what's going
He
on up
has
there.
been playing really well though.
Yeah, I need. Oh, I think we got a
And
cat fan.
Edwards.
Yeah, Anthony Edwards. Yeah, Riley just joined us, so I think we have a cat fan. Um, but yeah, I got to pay more attention to those baby Timberwolves over there. But yeah, absolutely. I think Ja should be on my list. Ja's third. I'm still going with DeRozan over Embiid. Embiid second. Ja's third. That would be my list right now. Um, but the Bulls have taken a slight tumble, so we'll see what
Hmm.
happens with that because the Bulls have lost 4 straight games with everyone there pretty much outside Alonzo. So we'll see what happens there. Bryce, we're flying through these topics, Lord. One of
We
your
usually
favorite
do.
one of your favorite players is returning to a team that you hate, and that's fine. And we've discussed this off the record. I've told you that anything we get from Victor Oladipo is going to be a bonus. I'm not counting on him for anything because the team that we have currently constructed is a championship contending team. With that said, how much more do you think Victor Oladipo in a very limited role could bring to the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat?
Did you say I hate him?
No, I said you hate the team.
Oh, okay. For a second, I was like, wait a second. I do not
No,
hate
no,
Victor
I said
Oladipo.
I said he's one of your favorite players who's
Mhm.
returning to a team that you hate.
Okay. I'm just making sure. Also, I don't hate the Heat. I hate how much clout you throw the Heat, especially like when you introduce them the way you do. It's like you'll find whatever extra thing you can say about them, like
They
Eastern
are
Conference leading,
they are the Eastern
whatever.
Conference leading.
It's just that's the only thing I have. I just push back because I know how much clout you really do give them,
It's
which
a
it's
fact.
fine.
It's a
Whatever.
fact
I
that
just
they're
push back. I don't hate them. Anyways, um, I think okay, it's you're already great without him. You don't even have Lowry right now, and you're still playing pretty good. You've had a lot of people out this season for long stints, and you still managed to play pretty good. So, to me, he's like just the ultimate X factor. He's like the. I was gonna make a football reference, but now I can't remember the guy's name, so that was terrible. Um, if he can stay healthy and come in and put in like 15 to 20 solid minutes for you, that's really all you would need from him this season. You know, everybody kind of fits into that team well and knows what to do. And when you've had people out, you know, it's like the team says next up. You the Miami Heat have a good culture and a deep bench to pull a lot of that off. Oladipo by no means isn't talented or isn't a go-to scorer or a great defender. He's all these things. But a lot of players on the Heat can do a lot of things. So I think just for this season, you don't mess up what you already have. But he's the ultimate X factor, like I said. Devin Hester. That's who I mean.
Oh wow. Okay.
Because, he's not super effective or super used all throughout the game. I know he's had his stints in his career, but when you had to kick off to him,
Yeah.
he's incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
So he has his spots. And so Oladipo, given the right spots in a deep playoff push, could be exactly what a team could use. I mean, any team that wants to make a deep playoff run would not be like, I don't want even a returning from injury Oladipo. Everybody would take that because he is talented. And he has, by this point in his career, he does have experience. It's all about health with Oladipo.
Yeah.
So come in, minutes restrictions. It's this late in the season. The team is gelling without him. I don't feel like you push anything. You let him come in, fill out his minutes, fill out how comfortable he is, and see if he can get you some buckets and can lock down some players, maybe off the bench, that kind of thing, wherever you need him. Because that's what the Heat do. They just lock in guys whenever they need them, wherever they need them. So I just don't think you force him into some large role at first, just because you've been so successful thus far. Anyways, you just let him be that extra weapon you have if you need him in some of these late playoff runs, because you're going to need him. Because the competition in the East, these teams aren't going to be getting swept. Both teams are going to be exhausted at the end of these playoff series. You're going to need everything you can get. So the fact that you have Oladipo coming back is better than what most people have coming to their team this late in the season. Like I said, I don't think you push him into some crazy large role. You just wait and see what you need from him.
Right. I This is why we didn't make any changes at the trade deadline, because we knew we were going to get an all-star coming in. Like, we knew he was coming. We just didn't know when. So it seems like Monday is going to be today. It's going to be against the Houston Rockets. Let's be honest. They're a trash team right now. So that's the perfect game for him to come back. Oladipo could have played last night. He could have. But we would rather not have him play against Philly. Let's have him play against Houston. We can try a few things with Houston,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not, even though we beat Philly, they're not as potent as Philly are. Plus, with Kyle Lowry being out right now, that does free up a few extra minutes that we can throw at Oladipo coming off the bench. So it's a good time right now to experiment with him coming off the tough week that we just had, because I think I saw of our good, I forgot the stat. We have more home games remaining than road games, for the remainder of the season, which is good. And the schedule's soft now because we've gotten rid of all our tough opponents this past week. So it's a perfect time for Oladipo to come back in a limited role. Even his 3-point shot was never that great, but even if he can turn into a 3-and-D guy in limited minutes off the bench as we go through this playoff run, that's all I can ask for him from him. Because, like I said, the way that this team is constructed right now, he's not needed. Let's say PJ Tucker goes down, Oladipo could slide into that role. Let's say Jimmy, who's been nicked up all year, goes down and has to miss a game. Oladipo can definitely slide into that role. Even though Jimmy's a better player, their games are extremely similar. Jimmy's a little bigger, but their games are extremely similar. Um, so that's the role I see for Oladipo. I am excited that we have another weapon now, and also another defender that we can throw at our boy up in Milwaukee, which I'm waiting for. I need 7 games of that in my life. Um, so I can't wait. I'm excited. I'm gonna be look. Monday would probably have been a game that I would have went to sleep on. Now I'm gonna try to stay up
Yeah.
so I can see Oladipo come back. So I'm happy for him. I know you're happy for him.
Hmm.
because of my generous nature and because of the love that you have for Oladipo, I will gladly buy you a Miami Heat Oladipo jersey because I know that was your favorite player. Even though your girl at the time wanted you to like Peyton, I know Oladipo was your favorite player. So I will gift you that jersey. How about that?
There's a lot of reasons I'm gonna ignore the last like 15 seconds of what you said. I'm not even responding. So we should move on. What's the next topic?
The next topic is going to be Russell Westbrook. So there was a report last night that came out while the Lakers were playing, ironically. And I want to touch on that because I don't know if you saw the stat line from that. But there is a report that came out that said Lakers upper management wants to bench Russell Westbrook for the last 20 games of the season, but Frank Vogel is resisting. There's layers to this. There's layers to this.
Hmm.
How do you feel about the Lakers now saying or trying to force the coach to bench Russell Westbrook with 20 games left? That's question number one. Question number two, is it fair to Russell Westbrook to have all the blame put on him? Because at that point, he would be the ultimate scapegoat.
Um. Well, we're hearing about it with the last 20 games left. I wonder if they've been pushing for that longer because a lot of other people have. Uh, in my eyes, though, this doesn't need to make Westbrook the scapegoat for anything. To me, it's still a lot of other factors involved. Um, we've talked about that might have been the best fit for the team, anyways. To me, I mean, after seeing how the season was going and everything, we were like, he might fit in and spark that second unit. He just might not gel the way they need that starting lineup to gel. With LeBron needing the ball in his hands too. But they never really tried that. So to me, though, that doesn't. You don't have to blame Westbrook for the Lakers not playing well just to move him to the bench, just to try a different unit out for team chemistry. I don't think that's fair, um, honestly. So, but to me, it's too little, too late. And this division you're having with Vogel, well, we already talked. I guess you should have gotten rid of him earlier. But I don't really understand Vogel's position because unless he's just trying to leave or know he's gone. Because if you're trying to set up these problems with ownership, what are you holding on to? You know the Westbrook in the starting lineup's not working because you tried it all year and you can't win. So what are you holding on to? So you're not loyal to management, and this team's not going to win a championship. So you're kind of screwing yourself, if you ask me. But the management asking if they truly did just ask for it recently, it's almost like too little, too late. But we've seen crazier things work. But I just don't. I don't know. At this point, it's just like the Lakers are more of an afterthought in terms of real championship contenders, but they're getting, they get the media attention and they get us to talk about them because they have LeBron James, Westbrook, AD, they're in LA, and they have all these things going for them, but I don't think there's really anything they could do at this point right now to change the ship around to say they're a legitimate title contender. I don't think they can do that.
Oh, okay. I am going to read you some stats for Russell Westbrook. 18 points a game, 7 assists, 7 rebounds, shooting almost 45% from the field. Yeah, people can talk about turnovers. I think he is the biggest scapegoat in the NBA right now for a team that has no want. They don't give a shit. And because of his lightning rod attitude, he's the easiest scapegoat. You're not going to point the finger at LeBron because LeBron's having an MVP season. You're not going to point the finger at Anthony Davis because he's still considered your future. You're not going to point the finger at Carmelo Anthony, Dwight Howard, Malik Monk, none of those guys, because people consider them washed anyway, which that shouldn't be the case. Um, and you didn't fire the coach. So who are you going to blame? Let's see. The one guy who gives a shit on the court, but who doesn't necessarily give a shit off the court, which is Russell Westbrook. So I think that's why the Lakers are making this move to take the blame off of everything else that's going on. Um, and it sucks because if I had a player of his caliber who's averaging 18, 7, and 7, I'm happy. I don't care. I'm happy. That's just me. I would rather take that over someone else. Let's say DJ Augustine, who they just signed to come off their bench. So if you bench Russell Westbrook, are you going to start DJ Augustine? He's a capable point guard, but he's not Russell Westbrook. And if you want to talk about defense, he doesn't play defense either. so,
Mm.
it's like, what do you want to do? Well, I commend Vogel for standing his ground. But I think it's grossly unfair that for the duration of this season, and Anthony Davis has caught a little heat too, but when you're not playing, you don't catch as much heat as people who are playing.
Mhm.
I think it's grossly unfair that Russ has caught this whirlwind of blame for the Lakers' problems. Because if you take Russell Westbrook off this team, they're not gonna magically start winning. There was a game where they benched him earlier in the season. And guess what happened? They still lost the fucking game. So it's just
Mhm.
like, what was the whole point of benching him? You're still going to lose. Um, it's totally unfair. Now, I do want to say this about LeBron. National TV game last night. He goes for 56 points against the Golden State Warriors, and they win. And it was a good win for the Lakers, even though the Warriors have kind of dropped a few games. That was a good win for the Lakers. And a win like that still gives the Lakers hope that if they can get through the play in, they think they can handle Golden State, and they also think they can handle Phoenix in potential first round matchups, which is why LeBron's not shutting it down yet. How do you think the Lakers would fare against Golden State or forgive me, or Phoenix right now? Because they think they can beat them.
With, without a healthy Davis, I think we'll see amazing games stat wise from some of those guys. Right. LeBron James going to put on a show. Westbrook probably going to put on a show stat wise. Might even be close in some spots. I just don't think they have enough firepower and team chemistry to win a 7-game series against those teams. Like I said, for the sheer LeBron effect, it might even be close in some spots, but I don't see a 7-game series victory. That'd be tough. I mean, it'd be. I think it'd be pretty disrespectful to those teams and to some of those like Devin Booker and Steph Curry. I think it's a little disrespectful right now, based on how good they've been all season, to
Hmm.
think that. Not that it couldn't happen. I don't see it. I don't see LeBron pulling off a playoff
What?
victory against those teams.
So
Mm-mm.
right now, if the Lakers were to get in, they would be the eighth seed if they could get into the playoffs. Um, So they would look at Phoenix in the first round because Memphis is not going to catch Phoenix. There's an 8 game gap there. So Memphis, no one's going to catch Phoenix. Phoenix is going to finish the
Mm.
season the number one seed. They can lose almost every game, and with 20 games left, yeah. So that's what the Lakers are looking at if they can pull this off. So I think the strategy is to stay where you are, don't move up too high, stay where you are, and just get laser focused on Phoenix and also laser focused on Anthony Davis coming back. One thing
Do-
I can go ahead.
And do you think Chris Paul will be back for the start of the playoffs?
He may, but even if he's in or if he's not, historically, Russell Westbrook is always shitting on Chris Paul. Historically, he's always had problems with Russ. That's advantage Lakers. I think Anthony Davis and Aiton from Phoenix will cancel each other out. And then the question is LeBron James. Phoenix has a plethora of young wings, plethora of them. But can they deal with LeBron James? I don't know. Maybe LeBron needs to take a trip to Miami. Wink, wink. But I don't think it's too. I picked Phoenix to beat the Lakers last year. This year, I don't think it's far fetched to say that the Lakers could give Phoenix a run for their money. I really don't because of the Westbrook effect. Because one thing he can be is disruptive on both sides of the ball, and I want to see how Phoenix can deal with him. And that could be a redeeming thing for him. It could be a redeeming playoff series for him if they were to upset Phoenix. Like all the heat would be off of him then if he could perform on that stage. So, because I'm looking at these other teams like Memphis, could the Lakers beat Memphis in a 7-game series? They don't have any experience. Lakers have all the experience in the world. I I see why LeBron hasn't shut it down yet.
Mm-hmm.
He said he has to be 12 feet under the ground for him not to be a problem. So,
Yeah.
Utah, they wouldn't see Utah. But those top three teams in the West, Phoenix, Memphis, and Golden State, Draymond's been in and out of the lineup. Golden State's last 10 games, they're 2-8. They are free falling right now. They've lost 4 straight games. Something's not right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think LeBron may be right by thinking he may have a shot to do an upset in the first round. And we haven't seen one of those 1-8 upsets in years. It has
Mm-hmm.
been years since we've seen one. But if anybody can do it, I think LeBron James is capable of pulling it off. But they have to have a come to Jesus moment with Russell, and plus Anthony Davis has to be healthy. So because I
Mm-hmm.
think if LeBron goes to Russell, let's say they play Phoenix, and LeBron goes to Russell and say you're going to be the most important player in this series, that's going to give Russell all the confidence he needs to go absolutely ballistic on Phoenix. Because Chris Paul historically is not a great defender. He'll get you steals, we know that, but he's not a great defender, individual defender. So yeah, that's where I'm at on it. The Lakers might upset the Phoenix Suns, and I love
We'll
Phoenix.
see.
I love Phoenix.
We'll see. I know it's like it's a possibility. And with LeBron James, you never know. It's just I think last year I picked the Lakers.
You did,
And
yeah.
I was, Phoenix really stepped up to the plate in my eyes. And I mean, I know there was stuff going on, but still, uh,
The Lakers
they're
wasn't healthy.
just they're just as good, right? Phoenix is just as good this year. I think
Mhm.
it could be come down to how healthy Chris Paul is, maybe, but still, um, I'm gonna go with Phoenix if they have to play Lakers. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna be tough though.
Um, it is. It is. It is. Because I think last year it was it 5 games or 6 games? Lord, I'm getting so old. I don't remember. Um, I just if I'm Phoenix, I'm a little afraid. I'm just a tad bit
Mm.
afraid. If that was to happen. So that's going to be it for this week's episode of the Hardwood Nations podcast. You can find us on YouTube. Just search the Hardwood Nation. Same thing with Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Please comment on all our videos. We respond to all comments. I just responded to newbie the other day, by the way.
Oh,
Newbie
nice.
dropped he dropped the comment. Bryce, I have an announcement that I will tell you off the podcast. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you next week.
Let's see.